think it's time to change my stickers. It might be past time. Oops. Another day, another disappointment. Just kidding, I actually did work last night. Once again, I don't know where the mic is. So I don't know if my finger's over it. That should be the first thing I figure out, but haven't done that yet. So yes, I did work tonight, and I've been reading you guys' comments, especially on my last video, and a lot of you guys said really sweet things and were really helpful, especially everyone who mentioned that you've gone through the same thing. And I liked what Jen said. She said that that's one of the reasons she doesn't do NaNoWriMo, because you do feel like such poo if you don't meet your daily goal. I mean, it feels great when you do, but then you really beat yourself up about it. And I think I need to go back and remind myself that the reason for NaNoWriMo, I mean, yes, of course, the first goal, I guess, is to, or the listed goal, is to write X amount of words. But really what it is just getting you in the habit of writing every day. And that is something, I've been working on my book every day. Like, there hasn't really been a day that I haven't at least been thinking about it or actively editing it. And so, I mean, I'm still successful in that attempt. And I guess I do need to relax a little bit as far as being negative. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm excusing being behind, but maybe I am. Maybe it's alright. I went through the same thing last year. I'm looking at my charts for this year and last year. They're so similar. For some reason, the summer months were way easier for me to write, and now it's just like the days are shorter and just everything just feels shorter and harder and crunchier, and the holidays and blah. But those are all excuses, right? I really like the advice that Kate left, and I'll link everyone's channels below that I mentioned. Kate's great. She has great NaNoWriMo videos. I absolutely love her. I'm definitely going to be doing a shout out video because so many people have, you know, given me shout outs, and I feel like we have a really great online NaNoWriMo vlogging community this year, and everyone feels really tight, and it's really fun to interact with sort of the circle of vloggers that I've been watching and that have been watching me. And Kate's one of those that's been watching my vlogs, and I've been watching hers, and she's been commenting. But she mentioned how sometimes when she is behind or needs to refocus her goal, she actually sort of starts small. So like, let's say, okay, I'm behind, so I'm gonna do 1,000 words a day or an hour a day, and then slowly build myself back up. So that way you're not completely overwhelmed. So instead of like, oh my god, I should do 3 hours today or 3,000 words today, and then you just feel so overwhelmed, you just work yourself back up, because I feel like that's the best way to success. I mean, it's kind of like weight loss, right? Like, you don't look at your body and you're like, oh, I'm so overweight, so I need to work out for 5 hours today to catch up to where I should be. Like, no, you ease yourself into it. And so maybe that's sort of what I feel like I would do better with, like an accelerated NaNoWriMo. So like, you start at like 500 words a day, and then you work yourself up, and like eventually you're going to be writing more than like 2,000 a day, but it kind of just gets you in the habit and gets you feeling good. I feel like that is a plan that people do. Like, I've seen the charts for that somewhere. I'm really sorry my vlogs are so short on the weekdays, but it's because I'm gone and my work will not be very interesting. I guess I'll kind of talk really quick about my day, like what I did during the day at work. So I have recently fallen head over heels in love with audiobooks. I mean, I listened to audiobooks a lot when I worked for the American Red Cross. So after I graduated undergrad, I worked at the American Red Cross for a year, and I mostly just did data entry. And I liked it. Like, it was a nice job. And however, I got to the point where I was so comfortable with what I was doing that I would find myself like kind of not zoning out, but just like mentally bored. Like, you know, you get in the routine, and like, I knew what to look for on the reports. And so I found, you know, I like listening to music, but I kind of get tired of songs, and the radio drives me nuts, the fact that they play the same songs over and over again. So I discovered audiobooks, and I've always had a problem with auditory learning. I need a visual representation of what it is I'm trying to learn. So teachers who just get up there and talk I really struggled to comprehend it as well and to remember it as well. Like I'm definitely a visual learner, but to a fault in that I struggle with other forms of learning. And so I noticed though when I started listening to audiobooks, I was getting better at like my auditory intake, like even just things people were telling me, I was remembering it better. And you know, I continued to do that for about a year. I was listening to audiobooks nonstop. I like read, you know, who knows how many books that year, and mostly Agatha Christie books. But I also did like the Harry Potter series, I did Game of Thrones, I did, I don't know, just a bunch of stuff. I recently discovered, and it was like the best discovery of all time, but that libraries nowadays, you know, they've caught up to technology and they have audiobooks. And the library near me actually they have two different programs. They have an app called Overlook, and then they have a website called Hoopla Digital. And basically, you know, you just enter your library card and you can download an audiobook through the app or through the website for a set amount of time. So usually it's like 2 to 3 weeks. And it's great. And so like I can download an audiobook on my phone and like listen to it at work. And so right now I'm listening to Gone Girl, and oh my god, it's so good. And I've seen the movie, so I know what happens. I heard the ending is different, so I'm looking forward to that. So I don't really know the ending, but so far the book is so great. I mean, I loved the movie, but the book is so cool because it's in first person and it switches back and forth between the two main characters, and you like don't trust either of them. I mean, that to me is like the definition, like a perfect textbook example of an unreliable narrative. And because they both sort of admit that they're liars, and like even while, so Nick is the main character, even while he's telling what happens, he'll like go back a few chapters and say, okay, I haven't been honest with you. Like she breaks the fourth wall a lot, the author does, and like the characters address like I lied. And it's so interesting. Like I've never read a book like it, and it's so cool. And I love thrillers and mysteries. So, and I think my increased interest in audiobooks is really what led me to YouTube again, because okay, I haven't talked about this, but it's a huge part of my life and I feel like I have to address it. So the number one thing I watch on YouTube is not vlogs. It has nothing to do with writing. I listen to scary stories like all the time. Like it's my favorite thing to listen to when I'm cleaning. You know, at work I do it sometimes, but I just, like if I'm on the train, like I just listen to them non-stop. My favorite is Lazy Masquerade, Corpse Husband, Bee-Busta, Mr. Nightmare. There's probably loads I'm missing. I feel like there's a big one I'm missing. Let's Read is a good one, but that's like various artists. But they're so addicting. If you've never listened to scary stories on YouTube, definitely do it, especially because right now with the adpocalypse, they're kind of struggling because obviously the titles of these videos can be kind of gruesome, like they include murder, stalker, that kind of thing. And so ads have been pulled from a lot of these videos, and they've been struggling even though they produce great content. And I always said if I got like a really good paying job or like came into more money, I'm definitely going to go to all their Patreons and donate all this money because I adore them. Most of them, yeah, have set up Patreons because their ad revenue has been cut so much. But yeah, so that has also helped my, so I discovered that like after learning about how much I liked audiobooks, and that sort of led me into my love for YouTube again. Because I loved YouTube a lot in middle school, and that's when I wanted, like I had another channel, I still have that channel, and I had an idea for a channel, but I didn't do it. And I kind of, I don't know, just kind of stopped watching YouTube as much, or stopped watching the YouTubers I followed, but listening to those scary stories definitely got me back into it. Lazy Masquerade is my favorite if you want someone to start with. Like, he's really good. He's got a great accent. It's such a weird addiction. I hope someone out there knows how addicting they are. Like, oh my god. But yeah, they can be really gruesome, and I remember the first time I listened to them at home, and my mom was like, what in the world are you listening to? Because like there's curse words, because I mean, a lot of these stories are true stories. I should mention that too. Like they get them off the Let's Not Meet subreddit, and they just read them like with permission. or they're just like scary stories they found over time, or the one I just listened to was like unsolved murders. So good. I love the true ones. Like, they're so spooky, and it made me such a paranoid person last year. I think I've started to settle down. Anyway, that is a huge tangent and ramble. I hope you appreciated it. But that's just my way of saying I've loved audiobooks, which came from my way of saying what I do during the day at work, which is my way of saying I'm sorry I don't film that because, well, I'm at work and that would be awkward. So the plan for tonight is going to be the same as tomorrow. I am going to go to bed. Zach has not been feeling well, so I said I would sit there with him, so I'm not going to vlog while I'm in there. But I'm going to be working, and hopefully I can get, what time is it? It's 11. I don't know if I can get 2 hours in if it's that late. Maybe at least a good hour. I keep falling more and more behind. Don't stress about it. You're working towards it every day, Haley. But I'm stressed. God. Why does NaNoWriMo have to be 50,000? Why can't it be 30,000 words? That would be so doable. She says, never having done it. But yes, I am on, I don't want to tell you, I'm on chapter, to give more details about what I'm doing. So I'm still doing my heavy read through where I'm taking notes on what I'm learning. And like I said, I do want to do the character profiles. I just finished chapter 5, so I'm on chapter 6, so I'm halfway done. Going through my read through, and it definitely has gotten way easier. Like I mentioned before, when I first started rereading, maybe it was because I've reread chapter 1 so much, but I really struggled to read it as someone who has never read it before, and it was way harder than I thought it would be. I thought I could easily switch that off my brain and pretend I had never seen this before and read it. But just to give a more detail about why it's hard, so like just kind of dropping tidbits of information is what's hard, because, or like just explanations of things. Like I don't know if I've explained something yet or not, because that's something I already know. And so like the characters will mention, for example, the shadow skulls. So I don't know how much I've talked about the crystal skulls with, but in my story it involves the legend of the crystal skulls. And so there are 6 crystal skulls that each have a unique power. And in opposition to that, there is also something called the shadow skulls, which have sort of the opposite power. They're sort of a direct consequence of such a concentrated force in the crystal skulls, and so they're like a shadow of that force, so to speak. But I can't, like, I was reading and I mentioned the shadow skulls, and I'm like, did I already explain that in a previous chapter? I don't remember. And so one thing Heidi from Listen, I Have an Idea mentioned was writing out chronologically your timeline of events. And I think what I'm going to do is not just the timeline of events, but also the timeline of when I drop information about my plot, because it's just getting like, I don't know if I mentioned it, I don't know. And I definitely contradict myself sometimes in the writing, and it's really funny when I see it. Like I changed my mind on the powers, for instance. So to give another example, one of the main characters, Anna, she has the power, she has the Phoenix, which is the name for the crystal skull that holds the power of immortality. And with that immortality, she can heal herself really quickly, which is why she stays young, like her cells regenerate basically, and you know, she can't die. But at one point, I show her like putting her hand over someone else and healing them, because I was like, oh, that'd be a cool effect if she could, you know, expand her power outward like that. But then a couple chapters later, I say, Anna's like, oh, I wish I could extend to other people, but I can't. And I'm like, I must have changed my mind. And I'm like, I didn't even realize I did that. And so that's what I mean when I say like changing my mind about things and not knowing when I mention certain things. So that's why it's hard. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. I think if it wasn't a fantasy style, sci-fi style story, it wouldn't be so hard, because I wouldn't have that world building aspect. Like if it was just realistic fiction, and then maybe it wouldn't be so hard to remember, because you know, I've created this world, I've created this power, and I have to remember all the details of it. And like I said, I changed my mind a lot, and so I don't remember at what point. Okay, now I'm rambling. I hope you get the idea now of why I say it's difficult, because I think, because I know I was always confused when people said it was difficult, and I just didn't know why. My battery light's blinking. I know this battery light only lasts like 2 minutes, unlike my old camera, which lasted like 20 minutes. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna finish going through my book. Hopefully we'll finish that this week, and then I can get to doing heavy rewrites, and yeah, let you know how that goes. Alright guys, see you tomorrow. Bye!